you know, the Bay Area is a very special place. I mean, I grew up in Palo Alto as well, and I
You did.
know,
Is
yeah.
that very
And when I
exciting?
wanted to move to LA, actually, I remember a guy in a store telling me, "Oh no, don't go there. You'll be back. You'll be back. Don't worry."
Oh yeah.
And I'm still in LA, but I do miss it. But I didn't at the time. But the Bay Area is a very special place. What do you think? How could you describe it to people that aren't from there? Because it is, there's an
Um,
openness to it.
yeah, I think the landscape is very exciting. It's very beautiful, and it's also kind of there's this like interesting border between suburbia and wilderness that I explore in the movie, um, and also like a lot of like interesting characters. So in the movie, there's just like a lot of like it takes place in 1985, and there's like a number of kind of like hippie weirdo characters like left over from the 70s.
Yeah.
So that was really fun to like write all those characters, and some of them are from the stories, and then I added a few. But it's yeah, there's like I think there's a good Bay Area personality in terms of that interesting mix of like hippies and then more like Silicon Valley like technology, um, sort of more entrepreneurs types. So there's an interesting like tension and mix of people, I'd say. Um,
That's a great, and I remember when they would do free Grateful Dead shows, like around
uh,
Stanford,
yeah.
and the town would just converge with just all these characters, young and old, and it was just a really
Oh,
interesting.
that's awesome. I listened to a lot of Grateful Dead when I was writing the script.
Oh, did you
They're
really?
actually one of the, well, I did kind of get into them, I don't know why, weirdly, but also one of James's stories that he had talked about me adapting is called Friend of the Devil,
Oh,
which is
right.
a Grateful Dead song, and so there's like a um, character who's obsessed with the devil, I guess, but I think it has to do with that kind of, local character. Um, and the character who's obsessed with the devil meets this older veteran, and I don't know, it has to do with that, kind of like weird 70s leftover subcultures that are still there, even though it's a very wealthy area. Um, so yeah, I like the Grateful Dead.
And is it correct that Jerry Garcia actually lived in Palo Alto? Is that, did
Oh
you?
yeah. Well, when I think that's true. And when I was doing research for the film to kind of see what was going on in technology in the 80s, I read a lot of books that talk about how, kind of like Steve Jobs is known for having been this hippie who went on these like trips to India. There's a lot of like the early technology people that were into the counterculture. So I read about a lot of like people who hung out with Jerry Garcia and then like invented the first computer. And there's a little bit of that in the film because a lot of the dads work in tech. So there's one dad, for example, that spends all his time on the Well, which is this like early internet chat room that's kind of like I think had some like Grateful Dead connections and was kind of a subcultural thing, and then that developed into the internet. Um, so I was trying to like weave that background into the movie of like what was going on before we had the internet, and exploring personal connections as they were changing in that time. So sorry, that's kind of a digression from.
Oh no, that's fine. I remember, yeah, IBM going on
Yeah.
school field trips to like seeing the first computer, which was like a whole room. It was like this huge room of these machines and
Oh
stuff.
wow! I need
So,
to interview you then. I want to know more.
yeah, well, I mean, it was cool. There was a lot of interesting stuff, and there is that neat mix of just sort of the bohemian versus the sort of the left brain techie
Yeah, totally.
person.
And I think they don't think of themselves as opposed to one another. They actually think they're related. Like there were a lot of like counterculture people who became these crazy tech geniuses, and it's yeah, it's pretty interesting.